Hello, everyone. I'm Tanja from TP Talks, and welcome to this live. There are so many bilingual and third culture individuals, regardless of experience level, who are not seeing results in their career search. And this is completely normal. Why? Why does this happen? Because your valuable international experience is misunderstood, misrepresented, or simply is undervalued undervalued on your resume. So, who does this concern? This concerns pretty much anybody in today's job search. I would say that you can be a new graduate who has done international studies and has languages, but undervalues their resumes or application. Also, professionals to new to the market, maybe rejected due to poor positioning, kind of applying the spray and pray, kind of applying everywhere, which I'll talk about in a second. Could be also a senior executive professional who has pigeonholed themselves, unable to pivot, and also people who have gone through a merger and acquisition where they're struggling in a new cultural dynamic. So you can be in any of these cases. And excuse me. And something that really works would be a practical tip is, you're going to be laughing. It's easier said than done, is don't panic. Uh, Often is what happens is that in real life, we're in fight or flight mode when it comes to this change, and transitions are always easier said than done. So we're on this fight or flight mode, and when we don't get results, we often send resumes right and left. Anybody that has the R in recruitment in it, listening to everybody's advice. And also translating instead of tailoring or personalizing applications. This is kind of like running without direction. We stay busy but go nowhere. And here I wanted to mention something with an example. Like a couple of years ago, I decided to start running just for my health. I didn't want to really run a marathon or anything, but I just wanted to start running. To keep in shape, to keep healthy. And I decided not just to go out there and run, but I spoke to people, coaches and people who already know how to run, have been running for a while, who've done some marathons. I looked into different shoes. I asked them advice, and I catered their advice as well. I decided, do I want to run every day? No, not really, because it gets tiresome. So, right tennis shoes, right clothing. I kind of, as you can see, I kind of set up a certain type of a strategy or a certain plan that I wanted to have. And why am I mentioning this example is basically running without direction. We stay busy and go nowhere. But once you start catering, this is how the inside out framework looks like. Kind of like that strategy of how I'm going to go about running and keeping healthy. So I'm going to mention to you in a short way something that we call the job skills assessment. How does this look like? This is basically the question that it's an introspection. So you basically ask yourself, why this job, and what's my ideal working environment? So those are the two main questions that you want to ask yourself when you're doing this introspection. And this is before you send out resumes, before you talk to people and go networking. It's really to ask that question yourself. So the first item to clarify that would be to look at some career questions. What drives your choice? Is your choice driven by security? Like, what is the most secure thing to get? Is it glamour and prestige? Do you want to work like for this huge thing, or for this company that has the name, that has the prestige, it's been around for a while? Or is it passion? So this will take some time to reflect what you really want and be honest with yourself. Another question that's very important is, are you more of a team player or an independent worker or something in between? Like you can say, well, I really enjoy and need people's feedback. They're all different types of personalities. What's important here is to identify yours. Are you more of an individual? And I know people who say, Tanya, I don't want to work with anybody. I just want to be alone in my lab. And that's completely fine. What's important is that you identify that for yourself because it's part of that positioning and that strategy. Also, a question is, do you thrive in a startup, a small company, a small, medium-sized company, or a big corporation? Now, each one of these companies is going to have a different corporate culture, will have more hierarchy, and also the type of work will be more diverse, faster speed, or probably more of pretty much the same speed, or how can I say, the same type of work, same responsibilities, with more hierarchy, and the like. So ask yourself really what type of company you would be in. Now, if these questions are kind of tough, I understand. You can go back and revisit it, but what's important is that you answer this truthfully. And one way to get an idea is ask yourself, well, the last time when I worked somewhere, or if you haven't worked yet, had that work experience, ask people who have been there, who have gone through that experience, who can give you that information, and from there on, you can use that information to pivot and go further. Let's go to the international profile now. What motivates you internationally? What are the goals, the relationships, and the stability, or maybe, the instability of it? Maybe it's an adventure for you. And here, the motivation is also important to know that this motivation can also happen uh, locally or internationally. What do I mean by that? I mean that you can get a job, an international job, locally, just where you are. How? There are today, as you very well know, there are companies that use both companies, or maybe even three. Here where I live in Strasbourg, France, it's completely normal to speak English, French, and German because we're right at the border. So companies, especially there are certain departments like marketing, logistics, and after sales where you come to work and you sit down, and these are the languages and the cultures and the peoples or that you may be dealing with. So having that job locally is completely possible and also even less expensive. It doesn't require a big budget to do that. And on the other hand, if you're looking for more of an adventure, be it going to one country, because you want to either learn the language or even go further, learn cultural agility, that whole knowledge behind it, and then maybe going from a second to a third or fourth country and moving along in that way, really ask yourself, what is the goal? Is it the goal simply getting the experience, learning the language, learning culture, language, and actually doing the work, and the stability or lack of, or having that adventure that's there? Ask yourself what motivates you. Then the communication, know yourself how you communicate. Are you more a timid communicator? Are you more like a really direct communicator, or something in between with empathy, or where you include others? This is important to know, as well as the type of communication that you're most comfortable with. Now, this is important to identify, and it's also important to identify when conflict happens at work, what kind of communication is tough for you, and write that down, because that's going to also position yourself as to what jobs are going to be open to you and which would appeal to you and align with you. Also, ask yourself what kind of a learner are you? Because once you get that job, and you're on board, you'll have to learn things very quickly, and that can be very overwhelming. Again, you're going to this flight or fight mode. So are you a type of a learner that's more visual? Are you more the type that writes and reads, or is it more of a group dialogue or having a mentor? This is going to again help you to really succeed in the pivoting and success in the job. Now here I'm going to stop here because the little skill assessment is, I've concluded with it. If you're not clear on these, your job search will reflect that lack of clarity, and hence the confidence that you will show when going into this. So this is really going to help you with the base, the introspection. Now, how does this work like? Let me share you the story of Leonie. Meet Leonie. She's French, and when she decided to look for a job, which was an engineer, she basically sent thousands, literally thousands of generic applications. Her resume was basically a translation of a French one. She chose her first job as the only job that she wants to do because it seemed safe, right? Big brand, good pay, lots of layers. It was very hierarchical, so kind of gives the security of it. She really loved her team where she worked with, but she realized that her work was getting boring, and she stopped learning, and she was getting bored. It was became a routine, and there was very little to no interaction outside her work in this big company. And all of a sudden, she had a friend who decided to go to Boston. He got a job. And this was a perfect moment for her to start dreaming bigger and going for it, because even though she read and wrote English, she spoke very, very little. The problem here, what was the issue? What was the blocking point is that she didn't question what she really wanted. She really kind of went with what she knew and what the others told her. She trusted what the others told her. She also followed advice from all friends and used generic resumes. And although advice is great and wonderful, I always believe that advice should be thought about, catered, and personalized according to you, because we're not a bunch of copy paste documents. We are people who change with jobs, and our needs and desires change as well. And also her resume. But that we'll do it on another live, the resume. What was the turning point with Leonie? When she took this inside out approach, she realized that she really didn't want to work with a big company with a big hierarchy, because she realized she was really much secluded, but she wanted to work for a more of a small to medium-sized company where she would actually speak more English and not be so scared about her accent and what would come out, and use her creative skills, because actually we discovered that her creative skills was her real strength. I'll come back to it a little bit later. She also targeted, instead of just one job that she only knew, we did a career assessment and identified three different positions. So instead of looking at one, she positioned herself into three different ones. And and then once she had the clarity of the type of company she wanted to look, the type of jobs, and where she aligned best, that's when she then started to network with alumni, and especially friends and people she knew who had a internal referral program. Or now, what does this mean? Internal referral program is basically people who already work in a company, and when they refer someone they know, and once that someone they know is hired, they receive the commission. This is very common in companies. They totally bypass recruiters, and this is basically this is what I outlined for her to use. And she also rewrote her resume for each position, catering it for each position, optimizing it with keywords, and not only putting it online, but also making sure that there's a reference and aligned with the value that we did in the job skills. And then she positioned her international background as a strength. And most people said that she could translate really well. She could also identify basically where there was ambiguity very well, and she was able to ask key questions to kind of open up discussion and see a different perspective. So that was really the turning point of this inside out approach with her. What was the result? Within a month, she had 3 interviews and a job offer. Now, you may or may not be a Leonie, but I believe it's really possible. The key takeaway here is the breakthrough wasn't a new experience. It was simply clarifying and positioning yourself instead of just throwing out resumes and spray and pray, as we say in recruitment. It was very intentional and aligned. It was clear. So in conclusion, I'd like to say there's this iceberg, you know. And remember that in this iceberg, as we're looking at it, you have your CV, your resume, your LinkedIn and cover letter that are the visible part of the iceberg. But underneath the invisible part of the iceberg is the insecurity, is the emotions, it's the career values, and what you really want to do in your next career chapter. And when you align the visible with the invisible, that's when things start to move. So in conclusion, and as a wrap up, the problem isn't your experience, it's the how, what and how you do with that experience, how you position it. So using this inside out framework to clarify your direction is going to be optimal. And position your value. Don't just list your past like a bullet point. That's going to be the key. So I hope this short but powerful live has helped you in looking at inside out and positioning yourself before applying. I'm going to include you can download my free guide uh, that will go deeper into this job skill assessment further. And if you feel like you want to reach out and talk, you're more than welcome to. Alignment is going to be important. Now, I'd like to say thank you for joining me. Your experience does have value. Absolutely, it does. Let's make sure that the world sees it. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great